Not one which implies a criticism of the Minister.
I will undertake to look at, because that was not my recollection of the exact wording, and I'll undertake to look at it indeed. Question number 10, Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Social Development and asks, can she confirm that in the year from 1 July 2010 to 30 June 2011, 71 children and young people were abused while in CYFS care?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, in 2010 I asked Child, Youth and Family to review cases where children placed in Child, Youth and Family care had been further abused or neglected. It quite frankly horrified me that we didn't know how many children and young people in our care were abused and re-abused, as it wasn't recorded, as the member will know from the answer that I gave her written answer. Subsequently, the review showed that in 2010-2011 there were 71 children and young people in Child, Youth and Family care that were abused. Of this, 30 cases were the child's Child, Youth and Family approved whānau or non-whānau approved caregiver, and 41 cases were by third parties. That is less than 1% of all caregivers. International comparisons are 0.5 to as high as 7%. No abuse though, and certainly no re-abuse is tolerable.
Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What has she done to ensure the safety of those 71 children, 30 of whom, as she said, were abused by their CYFS-approved caregiver? And can she assure the House that not one of them has suffered further abuse in care since?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, so what happened was it took 7 weeks for a social worker to work through all of the review of all of those cases. Since then, we've seen about, from memory, 13 of them have been prosecuted from police. The others were not, even though they were substantiated abuse, they weren't at a level that the police could actually prosecute. I am assured by the department that all of those children are now being cared for, are safe. We have no caregivers that have got substantiated cases of abuse against them that are still in a place of looking after children.
Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can she confirm that the cases of those 71 children were only discovered by a one-off manual count of data at individual CYFS sites, because CYFS keeps no central records of reports of abuse of children in its care?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, yes, the member's right. So they keep the information at a local level and they supposedly go through it. As I say, I was concerned about that, particularly when I first became Minister. I then got an experts group together. At that point, we had reports that it was as high as 1,800 children were being re-abused. They are our most vulnerable, as I always say. That's not just a statement, it's actually the reality. They really are in a position of being the most vulnerable children in this country. I was then, once we started looking into the details of it, it wasn't as high as first projected. Not that that is acceptable, but it was better than what it was going to be. Some of them were caught prior to the review being done, so it wasn't just because of that manual review that they were found. Some were found well before that. What it did, though, was give a snapshot of actual numbers.
Holly Walker.
Will she then commit to a full manual review of all CYFS sites for the years 2001 to 2009 in order to find out how many other children and young people have been abused in CYFS care in recent years and put the appropriate support in place for these people?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, no, because what we're not saying is that it's not that we don't know who they are or where they are, it's just that it's not collected at a national level. So actually the regional sites do know and are getting to those cases and are going through them. What they didn't do was actually collect them for national data, and what we're now doing is just seeking to do that, and it wasn't because we did the manual review that we found them. They had already been found, they just hadn't been collected nationally.
Holly Walker.
Supplementary. So can she confirm that CYFS will now collect all of this data nationally on abuse in care? And does she agree that the abuse of these children and young people while in care raises serious questions about the vetting process for CYFS-approved caregivers and the ongoing safety of children in care?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, what we do need to do is keep it in perspective. So, as I want to say is, no abuse of children is tolerable or acceptable in this country. It is less than 1%. So that is, I would like it to be 0%, but unfortunately in today's world that is not possible. It is 0.75% of those caregivers. They are actually processed, but unfortunately we're not in every home and able to make sure that every child is cared for at the level that we would like it to. What I can promise the member is that A, they are followed up, A, there is processes in place, they are prosecuted whenever possible, and those children are not left in unsafe circumstances.
Point of order, Holly Walker.
I listened carefully to the Minister's answer, and I don't believe that she addressed, and I appreciate there were several parts to the question, but I don't actually believe she addressed the question about whether the data will now be collected nationally by CYFS.
I think that was a fair supplementary question. The Minister may have overlooked that, and she may be prepared to answer that. The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I am. We are collecting the best we can, but it's going to take a complete IT change for us to collect it at a national level on a continued basis. So I'm looking at ways that we can do that as we're upgrading the system.
Point of order.
Point of order, Holly Walker.
I seek leave to table the Minister's answer to written question 4968.
Order, no written questions available.
It's not yet publicly released. It has not yet been publicly released.
It will be released imminently.
I was advised by the Tables Office that this was a...
Now, we don't table answers to questions. There's a process for that being available to members in the House here. Question number 11, Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister.